All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We're really excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining. We've got a very important topic today, and we're very pleased to have a high-power panel of fireworks industry leaders with us on hand to share with you a multifaceted effort by the American Pyrotechnics Association to generate congressional support for additional federal assistance for fireworks displays companies, which are, of course, experiencing unprecedented loss of business due to COVID-19. So in some ways, this is really the current situation is really a tale of two cities. While display and manufacturing segments of the industry are fighting for their lives, the consumer and retail segment of our industry are cautiously optimistic about the July 4th season. Today, we'll learn more about how the association is navigating this tightrope and what you can do to assist the APA in their Go Forth for Fireworks campaign. As always, we want this to be an interactive conversation, so please type in any questions or comments you might have in the comment section below, and we'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. But before we do that, let me first introduce to our guests and panelists for today's conversation, and let each of them just give a quick bit of background on themselves and their companies. First, we have Jim Souza, President and CEO of Pyro Spectaculars. Jim, welcome. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Really happy to have this opportunity to speak to everybody, to talk about our situation that we're facing during these troubled times and uncertainty, and offer some solutions and ask for your help. I am President of Pyro Spectaculars. It's now a fifth generation family, and our history now spans over 100 years here in the United States of America. I also serve currently as a Director Emeritus and been two-time past president of the great American Pyrotechnics Association. Thank you, and look forward to this exciting discussion today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Next, let me introduce Steve Pelkey, President and CEO of Atlas Pyrovision Entertainment. Steve, also so good to have you here with us today. Would you mind telling us a bit about yourself and your experience in the industry?
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. Hello, as the owner and CEO of Atlas Pyrovision Entertainment, way up here in New Hampshire for the last 35 years, I am privileged to also serve as a member of the APA Board of Directors. Atlas serves over 500 communities in New England for professional displays and operates 4 consumer retail stores in New Hampshire. We are a third-generation family business and employ 26 full-time and 450 seasonal pyrotechnicians, drivers, retail clerks, and facilities to staff, load, and unload trucks. I am blessed to have an invaluable, hardworking staff, which includes my wife, Barbara, 4 of our 6 daughters, who most, by the way, are licensed technicians and CDL drivers, and pray that we have the opportunity to pass on our family business to another generation.
Great. Thank you, Steve. That's awesome. And finally, let me please introduce Stephen Vitale, our President and CEO of Pyrotecnico. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Stephen Vitale. I am President and CEO of Pyrotecnico, based here in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I am a 5th generation fireworker, and this is my 40th year in the industry. And I'm proud to say and stand strong with my fellow board members, Steve Pelkey and Jim Souza, in our fight to preserve and protect a great American tradition, and that's the fireworks industry. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you for everyone for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you as well. And with that, let's turn to the APA's Executive Director, Julie Heckman. Julie has spent the majority of her career actually dealing with regulatory and legislative matters impacting our industry. And she joined the APA back in 1994, becoming the Executive Director in 1998. Julie, thank you so much for being here with us today and co-hosting this roundtable. What was the impetus, Julie, for creating this video?
Well, the video, and I hope we have that available to queue up for everyone. But, first, let me thank you, Jeff, and all the folks at Pyrotecnico for, offering your assistance and technical expertise to host this roundtable today. We are truly, truly grateful. And we have an important message that we want to communicate, not just to the firework industry, but to the general public at large. We are facing unprecedented challenges. I have to say, for me personally, working with the industry for 30 years, I've never seen anything so devastating as what the professional display industry is going through at this exact moment of time. But as you mentioned earlier, we do have somewhat of a tale of two cities. While our professional display companies are being devastated due to the widespread cancellation of Independence Day shows nationwide, we are hopeful and optimistic that the consumer fireworks sales are going to really have a banner year. I think the general public, due to COVID, is just itching to do something. And what better way to celebrate at home with your family on the 4th of July than putting on your own 4th of July show. And with 49 states plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico allowing the sale and use of some types of consumer fireworks, we think it will be a banner year. We convened a call of our APA's Public Display Committee about a month ago when everybody was in the initial panic of all of the displays being canceled nationwide. And we wanted to find out as an organization through our membership, and in particular the display committee, what could APA do? What could we do to help? And so Steve Pelkey had an idea about trying to do a Memorial Day tribute and going Facebook Live, asking every display company across the country to do a show on that May 23rd. I don't remember if that was the Saturday or the Sunday, but trying to go at 9 p.m. across the country as each time zone hit the 9 o'clock time period. And in having that conversation with the display committee, we realized there were a number of states and areas where display permits could not even be issued. They weren't going to be issued. And so we decided, let's do a video. And then we had a subgroup that included some of the consumer members as well. And we decided to do a Memorial Day tribute with no fireworks, but sticking strict to what the meaning, the true meaning of Memorial Day is. And then we decided we needed to have this dual message of what's happened to the display industry and the optimism to encourage consumers to celebrate the 4th of July at home. And then we'll do a third video that'll just be full out 4th of July celebration. So it really came from the display committee asking us to do something to help tell their story. So at the same time that the video was percolating, a segment of the leadership in the APA said, hey, you know what? We as the APA need to lead, and we need to look for some type of help, some kind of financial relief to help the display industry, or this segment of the industry may not survive. And I think with that, I'd like to turn it over to Stephen, if you could, highlight the current situation regarding the 4th of July displays. I know you in particular, your company, not only facing the massive July 4th cancellations, but the shattering of every event. Those major music festivals like Coachella and EDC and Electric Zoo, which my daughter is actually planning to go to at the end of the month. That's a huge segment of the industry that was impacted. That's not just the pure display industry, but live entertainment. And I think, Stephen, it would be great if you could, lead with that.
Thanks, Julie. And again, thank you everyone for being here. I would say, the one amazing thing about the American Pyrotechnics Association is that we all have a common interest in the preservation of a terrific industry. And we stay close. We're a close-knit group, whether we're manufacturers, whether we're consumer firework companies, or whether we're professional display companies. And I think that's one thing that's amazing. We're an incredibly small industry. I think going into the year, there's not one of us who wouldn't have said that it was going to be they were looking forward to going into their best year ever. The economy was good. Events were popular, and the fireworks industry is inexpensive entertainment, and that's the industry that we're in. I think we've all prided ourselves that we've been fairly recession resistant over the many years. We've seen a lot of recessions in our time, and there's always been a reason to celebrate. And a lot of times when there's celebration, there's firework displays. So we've worked hard to preserve the industry. So we've stayed close through this. And I think when the COVID crisis hit, let me back up and say, I think our biggest crisis going into the year was getting an ample amount of inventory out of China because of the complications with shipping. If we've had any challenges over the last several years, they've all been China related, and the disruptions in manufacturing and production there. I think everyone will agree with that. So when the coronavirus hit China, I don't think we thought that this was going to, we thought it would really affect shipping of our products to come to the country. And then once it started to roll through Europe, and then you started to see some cases in the United States, there was concern. And I would say Friday, March 13th was probably the day that changed the industry for us. Live Nation said they were canceling shows for the rest of the year. You started seeing baseball postpone, the NBA postpone. I mean, our business is 100% reliant on public gatherings. Everything we do deals with the public gathering. So we've stayed close, but I think early on we were somewhat optimistic that we've faced a lot of things in our history, and like this would pass. And then but we've stayed close. So I think it really increased the level of communication amongst us. Hey, what's going on in your area? What are you seeing? Is this a New York thing? Is this how's this going to affect us? And a lot of our clients were usually booked up, at Pyrotecnico, and I think everyone would agree, probably in mid-February, end of February, our 4th of July, and most of our season is really booked for the year. And clients started to get cold feet. Clients started to postpone their decisions, postpone signing contracts. And Mike Cardellano is not with us right now, but on the call, he and I said, let's keep close, let's talk weekly. Then in April, we started getting really concerned. And I think it was the last week of April, and I would pin it to probably about April 29th or 30th. I was like, how you doing? And we both said, this is getting really bad. We're getting nervous. What we thought might be a season where we're off 20-30%. Now we were thinking we're going to be lucky to do 20 or 30% of our business. And we were like, we have to take action. We're fighters. We've always been fighters. We have to do something on behalf of the industry, or there won't be an industry on the other side of this. I mean, the widespread cancellation of 4th of July fireworks displays, I'll throw it, is going to be devastating to small family businesses. We don't fight for ourselves in the business. When we go to APA conferences, we fight for everyone. And we're kind of known as the industry of, or the association of big industries, but there's nothing farther from the truth. We represent small companies, small multi-generational companies that do incredibly good work around this country. And we said we have to do something. So we just started talking. We collectively talked. We called Mike Collar, who's our association president. And he said, we think we're going to be in trouble. We don't know if we're going to make it on the other side of this if we don't do something. So we rallied a core group of people, and K&L Gates, who has been our general counsel for I don't know how many years, Julie, but upwards of 8-10 years, said, we're going to help you. This industry has been uniquely affected, and we don't get any do-overs. Once July 4th is over, a lot of companies, 80% of the revenues revolve around that. So I think I've kind of touched on every point, but we're primarily a 4th of July business that helps this country understand the most important holiday we have, and that's Independence Day. But if you would take our business, it's a Memorial Day to Labor Day business. And we know Memorial Day has come and gone. And we know, just in anticipating what's to come, Labor Day is going to come and go with a lot of dark skies in communities. So we really need to obtain some financial relief to keep this industry going, and that's why we're here. And so we appreciate you coming on, and I think that's about all I have to say.
That's perfect. Julie, do you want to maybe touch a little bit on some of the plan and what's been going on, behind the scenes that Stephen's already started to touch on?
Well, yeah, we have this core group of display companies that are really taking the lead and helping us with both our legislative strategy, working with our team at K&L Gates. We're really blessed that our lead at K&L Gates is Jeff Denham, and he is the former subcommittee chairman for the House T&I Committee for Pipelines and Hazardous Materials. And pretty much every issue that the APA has had before Congress over the years has been in the House T&I Committee. Steve Pelkey testified before Jeff Denham when he was subcommittee chairman. Jeff knows us well. He came and he spoke at our winter conference in Las Vegas. So we're really fortunate that we have him as our lead, as well as Barry Hartman's doing a fabulous job. There's another lobbyist, Scott Aralis. I apologize if I botched his name. I'm not as familiar with his last name, but Scott's doing a great job. We sent out a call to action last week, primarily to rally our display, proximate, and domestic manufacturers to reach out and send letters to their elected members of Congress, both on the House side as well as the Senate. We armed them with an issues paper that we're going to share a little bit later. And we provided supplemental talking points because there's a media angle to this. We're less than 30 days or exactly 31 days from the 4th of July right now. And typically, fireworks are the story. And so we have this opportunity that as the Independence Day discussions occur, and they were beginning last week. We got a lot of significant press out of our very first press release, but everything's on pause now until we deal with, the unfortunate riots and things that are controlling the media narrative. But that narrative will switch back to Independence Day. Could be as early as next Monday. And so we developed supplemental talking points because we anticipate that, in particular, our display companies are going to hear from their local press about the widespread cancellations. And we wanted to give them some key media messages to help steer that conversation and steer the direction of the news media when we think about the situation. In addition, we just did a second call of action Monday. So 2 days ago, to our consumer companies. This industry is all about family. And as Stephen said so eloquently, the APA may be perceived as an organization of just big players, but really every family business that's involved in the APA, they fight for one another. When the prox industry is facing hardship, the entire industry rallies to support them. When the consumer companies were facing unrealistic challenges with the National Fire Protection Association with regard to retail sales and storage, the display industry stood by them. So as the APA always does, we've now encouraged the consumer companies to please send letters to support their display colleagues in this effort of asking Congress to, come to our aid. So that's where we are now. We've had some really positive responses from a number of the congressional offices that our member companies have already reached out to. People are sharing those responses with me. I am then getting them to our lobbying team at K&L Gates so that they can follow up with proposed legislation. We do have legislative language. We just have not distributed that to the masses because that's a fine art in how the legislative language gets taken to the congressional staffers. And it will change over time depending on the vehicle that we can actually attach to. And anybody who's following the press, there's a lot going on with this next round of stimulus, and it's going to take a while to flush out, but our lobbyists are working that very, very hard to find the right vehicle that we can attach to. So, we will likely, when we get that vehicle, there will probably be another massive call to action saying support Senate bill ... or House bill ... that we will want people to weigh in and write their elected officials and garner support for whatever that legislative vehicle is.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. And I see some really good questions are coming in, but I apologize. I skipped over Jim, and I want to talk to you, Jim, about the solution a bit. And again, some of these things that we've talked about have already been proposed, but I know you have a particular perspective on this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the perspective, I share what everybody else has been talking about, and Stephen's lead up to this and explaining where we're at as an industry. I can just kind of double down on that as we started to come right out of end of February, having our family business forum and all together. It was a celebration weekend at the Mission Inn. We were talking about new opportunities to take advantage of, and one thing that I was really proud of, that we had secured the first ever U.S. International Festival of Fireworks. It was going to take place in October of this year. And we had location in Glendale, Arizona, at the Glendale Entertainment Center. We had teams coming in from China, Spain, Italy, and of course, we would be the U.S. company. And that went away right away. And then everything, the baseball, that went away. And as everybody points out, every place that there's a social gathering, that's where we work. That's where we do our best, and where we were there to provide entertainment and put smile on everybody's face and ours, and the passion and pride that we have as family members and the generations, and being able to pass the torch to my sons and nephews. And it's just a huge passionate industry that we have, and we're starting to see this on a daily basis. And now I'm saying by the hour and by the minute, especially for us here in California with the riots and the uncertainty. I'm seeing shows canceled literally. By the time I check emails after this, there'll be another, and we talk about transparency and the brotherhood and sisterhood we have in this industry. And, I'm here to say in front of you, we're down 90%. It means we're only going to do, if we do 10% on the 4th of July. It's really devastating. And so we have this problem and some solutions here, but there's a 10-month gap that we're all going to face. There's going to be dark skies out there, literally and figuratively, inside without any cash flow. Whatever we do on the 4th of July, that's going to be it. There's going to be a few stragglers that come in on Labor Day. That's 60 days more. How are we going to keep, we have 50 to 75 full-time employees that we also call family members. They have been here for 10 to 40 years. They have homes, they have cars, they have tuition, they have medical expenses, they have dreams and hopes like all of us. So it's not about just saving me. It's about saving our family, the families that are on this call today. That's what's important and passionate to me. And then to find a solution to get through these 10 months, back to working together. I was remembering in the early young days of my life coming to the first APA convention, more than 50 years ago, and just listening to the founding fathers, and also hanging out with Stephen's dad. He was Rocky to me, and they would just tell the stories of why we are here. In those days, they partied a lot. We work a lot now, but it was about staying together, because we were all one. And whatever happened to one side of display, it's bad accidents out there in a consumer world, or display, or if we do the big shows like you see behind me, it helps sales for everybody. So we are in this together. My dad was a big advocate of that. He was one that really did strongly pioneer the relationship between the display industry and the display that still goes on today. I had a recent call with Charles Anderson, a founder of TNT, the other day, and they're highly endorsing our program of reaching out to all the senators and congressmen that they have, and others. And a key point he brought to it was, this is a financial disaster and we need help, but we need to save the generations. This is what we're about. And there's a chance that this could go away. And I ask anyone I challenge you to name another industry that has this many multi-generational families in it. In a typical business world, you're lucky to pass the baton over to a third generation. Did you lose me there?
No, you're still there, Jim. I think we lost Paul, it looks like, but you're still there. Sorry about that.
Well, I'll go into the solution. Are we back?
Yeah, we're still here. Sorry about, there was just a little technical issue on our end.
A technical issue. All right. Well, you can tell I'm just really proud of the industry and want to see it continue. So we have this campaign, and we really need everybody's help to reach out to their local congressmen and women and senators to hear our story. We have the papers out there. We have the black paper as well that really talks about what we're asking for, which essentially is people are already familiar with the PPP program that most all of us have. That's really nice, except that's going to expire in a couple of weeks, and the whole nation is going to be out of that money. We'll see what happens with that. People who are unemployment, they're going to be gone in 12 weeks. We'll see what happens with that. But most of us, myself and our company, we're really relying on the SBA loan, which is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I think we're poster childs to that. We applied expecting to get the full $2 million cap, and we got 100. And I talked to the SBA, and they said, welcome to the new 2 million, because that's it. Well, that's just not enough. And there are a few other programs, Main Street out there, they're not satisfactory to what we need as this very special and unique industry to get it there. Let's just put it in real terms. There's a lot of small businesses out there. Let's just say you're a $2 million sales display company. I know the numbers. I guarantee you 50 to 60% of your costs are hard costs that you're going to need to incur between now and next April. So that's $1 million. If you're a 10 million, you can just add the zeros to it. So that's why we're asking for up to $175 million of a program, of a new special EIDL program specifically for our display industry to fill that gap. What I'm asking you all to do is to read the documents that we're providing and reach out to anybody and everybody you can about this, because the more noise we can make, we're going to get attention, and that's what it's really going to take.
You're absolutely right. Brian, can you share with us that sheet just so everyone knows what we're talking about, and we'll be referencing that throughout the conversation, and it is available on all of our social media handles as well. And Julie, Stephen, anybody else want to say anything just about this document before we move on?
No, I think from my perspective, Jim did a nice job of laying it out.
Okay. Great. I just wanted everyone to be able to see so that we're actually all on the same page and know what we're referring to, but this is the document itself. And again, it is available on all of our social media, various social media handles and channels.
And certainly,
It's available on the APA website as well. You know, it's a pretty simple summary of what the industry problem is, as well as what the solution is. And that's what we're asking everybody to please include when they do their outreach to members of Congress, whether it's on the House side or the Senate, is to make certain that this sheet, this one-page issues paper is also provided to them.
That's AmericanPyro.com.
Thank you.
and even non-industry people, if we've got many different supporters and customers that want to engage their representatives, whether it be the sponsors of certain festivals or shows that their nonprofit organization assisted in, or community committee has been working on for a number of years. If they want to also support our endeavor, then they too can get in contact with the AmericanPyro.com website, get this handout and submit it with your letter of support for our industry, and that would be a huge help.
It's a great point, Steve. I think, you know, one area that touches upon is if you ask any theme park, any baseball team, any fair or festival or community event, we're an inexpensive entertainment avenue to drive audiences to an event. I mean, I think it was the #2 attendance gather for baseball next to bobblehead nights. You ask any theme park, we help drive revenue for the folks that provide entertainment. I mean, just look at Disney. I mean, there's a reason why they shoot fireworks every night. It's an incredibly important form of entertainment for them. So it's an excellent point.
Thank you for that. I think now's a good time. I'd like to open it up just to some of the questions that are coming in before we, sorry, Julie, do you have something you'd like to say?
Well, I didn't want to leave out Steve Pelkey, so if you want to do questions first, that's fine.
No, just one question and we'll continue to, if that's all right.
Yep.
Sure.
Brian, do you have anything that's come in?
Yeah, I got one question came in, and it says, I wanted to remain anonymous, but it said, what do we do as citizens, employees of the fireworks companies to help the industry? I think it's a great question.
Who wants to take that one to start?
I'd be happy to. I think any of our staff that are a bit apprehensive about and building anxiety, like all of us have, and it's well founded. I think that if reaching out to your owners, managers, and we can certainly put something together for the employees and have them likewise contact their state representatives in the same manner that we are, with a heartfelt letter stating their personal cause, that they too, as Jim and Stephen so eloquently has stated, that we're all family. And for many of this, we've got a great passion for this that includes our family and longtime employees that are treated like family. And we want to be able to keep our staff together and our families together and our companies together. So if they put their heartfelt passions in a letter with their sentiments and attach that cutaway sheet, the black sheet, I think that would go a long way in support of our cause to just be able to get to 2021.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Steve. Julie, anything else you'd like to add?
Not on that topic. I think Steve summed it up, quite appropriately. But, you know, I do want to segue into Steve Pelkey because I think that he, in this particular task group of working this, has a little bit different perspective, that when we talk about the tale of two cities, he's living both. He has his display business, which is quite prominent up in New England, but he also has a number of the consumer firework retail stores, and he's gone through the drill of preparing those to be able to deal with the new social distancing mandates that, you know, consumer companies are dealing with across the country as well. But I think that Steve brings a unique perspective to the engaging Congress, because he served previously as a state representative in New Hampshire. So he's pretty savvy in terms of, you know, the guidance that he provided as part of our task group in, you know, getting everybody activated and writing their letters. And he's written an op-ed. We're going to be asking our display companies to be placing op-eds as well into their local newspapers. But I think Steve can kind of share that expertise that he has with us, as well as talk about what it's like to be in the display industry, and then hopeful that your retail side's going to have a very good year to make up for some of the financial pain. Some, I will say, nominal compared to how large that pain is going to be.
Right. Thank you, Julie. And like many others in our industry, we're a multi-generational family business. And for Atlas, this includes consumer retail stores and special effects for concerts and many collegiate and professional sporting events. Atlas is unique in the midst of this pandemic, and we do 3 of the 4 phases in our industry. Manufacturing being the last element, which we discontinued in the 90s, but that's a topic for another day. When this pandemic began officially in mid-March, as the panel has stated, with a declared national emergency, our industry was poised to have what Stephen had stated was a banner year. For the consumer aspect of our business, the 4th of July on a Saturday is probably the greatest moment that you can have. And it makes the scheduling a bit easier for our professional display division, because we were able to schedule those out on a very specific time of, you know, Fridays and Saturdays and Sunday evening for that Independence Day holiday. But as displays were being canceled, including professional sporting events and concerts and weddings and a variety of other private events, our company, like many, had to make a lot of decisions. I can tell you the mood shifts pretty quickly, and there has not been much time for panic. Our families and our employees need us when it counts most to make the best decisions that we can. How we will cash flow through the first 60 days was the biggest decision, and that turned into, well, how are we going to cash flow for 90 days? And as Jim has stated, you know, how are we going to get through the next 180 or 365 days? Who knows? Then all of the confusion of applying for the PPP and the EIDL, then try to manage the changing rules that took place every week to 10 days was a whole another conundrum. You know, there are many of us that checked in with the display friends, as Stephen said, from the very beginning to offer information and assistance. And I can tell you, it helps to talk through and to remind everyone you are not alone. Whether you're a big display company, small display company, you're a consumer company, it does not matter. You are not alone and you have friends. Fortunately, it only takes a few to spark the conversation, no pun intended, and motivate others, which is why the APA is a lot like a family. Unlike some of our friends in this industry, we do have Class C retail, but to what extent sales will exist with and managing the financial drought that we're going to have for the professional displays, well, only the 4th of July will be able to tell that. Atlas has made the decision, like others, to create an online shopping experience with a component for curbside pickup. This seemed like a logical step, considering consumers may be reluctant to shop in a crowded store or will be imposed with restrictions for social distancing. At the very least, the energy and the time to develop an online shopping platform would take some pressure off of the normal busy days leading up to the 4th of July, and who knows, improve some of our future sales. I always looked at this particular industry: when a crisis is born, a solution follows. And I think our industry is well equipped to deal with crises. This is challenging. There's no sugarcoating this. This is highly challenging, but we have the character and the companies with the passion to come up with a solution. Then I immediately find myself calling on my state and regional legislative allies, either from my days of serving in the New Hampshire as a New Hampshire state rep, or working with a variety of advocacy groups. But this involves being involved. And for all companies, I can only stress this, how important it is, even when I served as a representative, is know your state and U.S. representatives or their legislative directors or members of their policy staff. You don't always have to have the ear of the congressperson or senator or even the governor. The best advice I can give our listeners today is that it is not political. This is personal. It's for the survival of our livelihood. Do not get wrapped up in the political weeds of R's and D's. You need to state your case and your cause to everybody that will listen. The APA has developed a solid plan to contact all of our representatives. Email your state and U.S. representatives in Congress, write to them, and do not be afraid to follow up. Nobody is going to tell your story like you can. Remember, it's personal. There's no sugarcoating this. This is very, very personal. Write an op-ed. Editors from newspapers, magazines are looking for content. The timing is right for our industry to be heard. Jump in and again, tell your story. This is the only way this is going to happen. You have to call or email talk radio shows, social media with a plan. It's like everything that we do in our lives. We're a notorious industry for planning. We have to. It's how we survive. The best days to post on Facebook are Wednesday and Thursday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. If you want the media involved, post 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. When is this event happening? Wednesday, 4 o'clock. We want to be heard. Have a plan. Have content prepared. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, tweet, retweet, doesn't matter. Best of all of this is free. We've got time. Trust me, we have nothing but time. To all of our APA members, please engage with the U.S. Congress reps and senators. They are acting on phase 4 stimulus now. We need to be part of that conversation. If you need assistance, contact the APA staff or any one of us here at this panel. And I'm sure that every single other board member will also lend a helping hand. We will get you the information to reach out so you can tell your story. We have created a basic template, as it's been discussed here today, with our industry problem and drafted solutions. It was also designed as a PDF, so you can add your company logo to the upper right-hand corner to be specifically branded to your company, or you can simply have it with the APA logo. We need each one of our members to engage with your representative in DC. Remember, it is personal. It's our family businesses. It's preserving one of the most cherished American traditions we have, celebrating the 4th of July. Lastly, and I guess I'll just wrap this up, thank you to our legal counsel, Attorney Barry Hartman of K&L Gates. Your efforts to guide our industry, which includes valued special effects manufacturers and stage performance member companies, invaluable. To our hardworking staff, Julie, Annalise, Greg, thank you. A special shout out to our Pyrotechnical technical team here for assisting today's session. And finally, to each of you here with us today, thank you for coming on and help us tell our story and your story to preserve and protect the 4th of July for future generations. We need you.
Well said, Steve. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Right, as a U.S. citizen to contact your congressman, senator, governor, you name it. That's why they're there. They're there to serve the people.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. That was very well said, and I appreciate that. And with that, I think I'd like to open it up. Brian, do we have any questions we can take?
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of feedback. People miss their fireworks. We got people from all over the world. I'm seeing Italy on here saying we miss our fireworks. When do the fireworks shows come back? So obviously a lot of questions related to that. But a very interesting question came in. You know, if the Q4 economy looks like it's going to improve, do you start in Q3, and can you start in Q3 to talk to clients who would normally run a 4th of July show and talk to them about a year-end show at New Year's, basically wondering how do you keep all this product secure until next year? So about 3 questions asked in there, but very good points in there, and wondering how we can keep the product secure until next year, and can we pressure some of these clients or talk to them about having shows this year and kind of be early movers on this?
Well, I can take just the one element of it, which is how do you keep all of our fireworks secure? I mean, naturally, the timing could not be worse for our industry. We're looking at a time when all of our inventory and all of our magazines are at full capacity, and we ensure that inventory to a point at some time in midsummer when those inventories are dramatically reduced, and we, of course, we pay less. But now we're paying the highest possible premium we can on the highest value of that inventory stock, and we have to maintain that level, not only take care of it for ATF, not only take care of it for the security of our facilities, but we also need the manpower and the skilled manpower to remain to assist us in it. This isn't a 1 or 2 person show. This is where we need several people to back up that effort, and that's a lot of time and expense, and it goes to some of the reasons why our industry is so unique and why we need, as Jim had stated, that specialized EIDL is because we need to be able to have a vehicle to maintain our staff to ensure that we have our inventory safe and secure for the next 10, 11, 12 months.
Jim, Stephen, anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, I think, I think a lot of people are looking, a lot of businesses, a lot of event producers are looking for alternative ways to create revenue. But the majority of our work revolves around holidays. There's one thing that's always been said around our household and within our family: we work holidays. So I think you'll see a little bit of business in different, you might see a little bit of celebration towards the end of the year, but a lot of companies' average annual revenues are around 70% in and around the 4th of July. So it's not going to make a significant impact on anyone's business, I guess would be. Jim, you have anything to say? Would you agree with that?
I do agree, and our experience, in the last several weeks is people starting to cancel. It's like, well, don't cancel, postpone. Try to get some deposits and postpone. And we've had actually limited success with that, and it's for many reasons. It's these cities and communities, they have annual events, and so if you say, well, let's do something on Memorial Day, Labor Day, they've already have another event, or the facilities are booked for something else. So even though they say, yeah, I'd love to, they really can't. And to move everything to New Year's would be great, but traditionally that's really not a big deal for us on the West Coast. We're at the end of the time zone. So again, I go back, we need to survive for 10 months.
And our industry is predicated on outdoor large public gatherings. We do professional sporting events, whether it be professional baseball, whether it be professional football. Having an NFL season or a baseball season with empty stands doesn't contribute to the fan experience, and I'm sure that those owners are not going to be having fireworks. Outdoor festivals, music festivals, fairs, festivals of any kind, throughout the summer that have traditionally been going on from, you know, August and Labor Day and into the fall. If the communities have to go through these all of these processes and people engaged in these approval processes that never were a part of it. Now all of a sudden you have the health inspector in the community that are chiming in and saying, well, the fire chief says, I'm okay with it, and police say, I'm okay with it, but the health inspector that was never ever a part of it is now saying, well, can you submit us a plan for social distancing? And you try, and so these volunteer committees that are spending a lot of their time either trying to raise the money or try to put the event together, they just get frustrated and throw their hands up and say, you know, our expertise is getting volunteers to show up the day of the event and selling tickets and selling t-shirts. It isn't all of these logistics that are involved that is related to the pandemic. And it's unfortunate, but I don't blame them for, you know, not wanting to take on the liability, not having the basic understanding of what needs to be done, because even the guidance coming from the CDC to the state level down to the local level is really nebulous at best. And it creates just even more confusion. So the simplest answer to everybody is, let's not have it, which is the worst possible scenario for our industry. Because as Stephen and the rest of the panel is stated, once the 4th of July is gone and done, 70% of our annual revenues, and in some that are exclusively display, primarily like gym, is 90 or 95% evaporated. And that's just not acceptable, and we have to fight.
As much as we've worked hard over the years, I mean, you know, firework people are smart and innovative and try to create. Everyone's tried to take the seasonality out of our business, but at the end of the day, it's a 4th of July business, and 70% of your revenues revolve around July 4th. The other 20 revolves around sports.
Yeah. Sports and concerts.
And so it's,
Yeah, and you're not getting a do-over on any of these.
not getting a do-over on any of that. That's correct. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we're a 4th of July business.
Yeah.
Brian, any more questions coming in?
Yeah, got a couple more. So one is, how important is Washington, D.C., New York City, and Philly having a show going to have long-term? So how important is those cities having a show going to have long-term, if that makes sense?
Well, you know, traditionally, we track about 16,000 Independence Day shows nationwide. You know, that includes the small townships, cities, municipalities, as well as these large signature kind of sponsored events. Very few of the large events are going to happen this year. You know, these guys do those displays, and you know, even though there's talk that DC is happening, there's nothing definitive that it actually is going to be a go. And I'm sure these large signature events are really important to every display company that has them, but these large companies that do 400, 500, 600 shows, they're not all signature events. They're probably a substantial amount are the smaller shows, including, you know, the country clubs and the smaller municipalities.
But you know, and I just like to add, and Jim can chime in because he does, you know, his family's done the New York City show for, I don't know, 30 plus years. The shows are planning to proceed today. So we have to plan our production around that. So we're spending very limited resources to making sure these shows are happening. You know, we start, not only do we sign contracts and we plan our years, we start packing our shows in the early parts of the year. It takes time to do this safely. So we're at risk, you know, if New York is still planning on going, or Washington, or, you know, I know Philadelphia is not, you're planning, you have to plan, and you have to design the show, you have to pack the show, you have to warehouse the show. I mean, there's just so many technical production details that go around that. And it could cancel tomorrow. So anybody else, Jim,
Yeah,
add to that?
I'll speak to that specifically about New York, Macy's 4th of July Spectacular that's broadcast live on NBC. And it's one of the featured shows that the nation gets to enjoy, large attendance on television and live. And we're proud to have been able to do that for more than 30 some years. We might be starting to pack it tomorrow. It has been on, off, on, off, on, off. Get you into all the weeds and the details, but about a month ago, the mayor de Blasio said, yes, there's going to be a Macy's 4th of July fireworks spectacular. And he got a lot of pushback and kind of went away. And there was not any confirmation about that show. We got, we had a deadline last Friday. Still not hearing confirmation at the go. We got plans, we got all that. And I will tell you, it's not going to be a live event. It's going to be taped. And it'll be broadcast on the 4th. He didn't do anything on Friday. And on Monday, after the week of riots, we thought we're toast. He did pick up the phone and said, proceed with the plans that you have. That night, they tried to burn Macy's down. And we were waiting for that phone call. It didn't happen. We are proceeding to do something that I can't even tell you what it is specifically yet, but we hope, the view from Macy's is, and why it should happen and why it's so important. It's called the Macy's 4th of July Spectacular, he said, but it's not Macy's show. It's America's show, and they want it to go on.
It's true. I mean, for those shows that are taking the position that they want to move forward, I think they're just trying, in light of everything, create some sort of morale booster. Yeah. And what better holiday than our 244th birthday in the year 2020? You know, we're only 6 years away from our big 250th for our nation. Is there another cherished holiday besides Christmas and whatever, but besides the 4th of July that is so valued by so many Americans? And it represents everything that we're embodied with going on as a country. And I think a lot of these locations that are trying to pull something together are trying to do so is specifically for a morale booster. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to get the polish and the feel that it's had in the past, but it's almost like the show must go on.
Yeah, we create so much joy and excitement. I mean, we bring communities together. We bring families together. There's, you know, if you bring up that you're in the fireworks industry, someone always has a great memory around a fireworks display. I mean, I'll quote George Zambelli. He used to say, fireworks are magic, and they are.
That's great. That's a really great point. Brian, can we take any more questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe last question. I'm getting a couple of these that I've seen, but people are talking about, given the loss of revenue, you know, how are you guys carrying out day-to-day operations? And I think to me personally, I've worked for large and small companies. I have a great respect for the small business owner, and I have great respect for you guys keeping these businesses going during a time like this. So, any comments on that?
Well, go ahead. Steve, you're going to say something?
Well, no, I think we can all touch on it to some degree, but I mean, Jim hit it right on the head when, you know, we, like many businesses, we were given a little bit of a lifeline with the PPP, but In some businesses, it really didn't do an awful lot, because if you're display exclusive, what are you going to do? You're paying people to pay people, but every little bit helps. And the way that I look at it is, and what I've kind of said to other member companies is, it's like anything else that we do in our lives. Don't get overwhelmed with, how do I get to next year? How do I get to 6 months? How do I take the first 8 weeks that the PPP offers, allow the dust to settle, see what other government solutions are there, the consumer solution as far as, will businesses get back in line? Will more festivals start to gradually come online? And just buy yourself some time. But as Jim stated, for many, that PPP program, which provided 8 weeks of payroll, is only going to expire for most around the 15th of June. What do you do after that if you have zero income? So hopefully there's a lifeline, and hopefully that lifeline is being tossed out there pretty soon. But in the absence of a lifeline, we have to be vocal as an industry with our approach. And I think this approach that our task force, our APA, is so well put together, that we just need to just get that message to our U.S. Congress representatives and get it done.
That's great. Jim, Stephen, do you want to add anything else before
Well, I just think that, from our perspective, I get fielded that question too from the press recently, bringing in the doomsday of the doomsday and what if and all that. And I just look at it to say, that's a reality, but I have a sense of hope. This has been too bad to believe it, basically. Something good's got to happen out of this, and probably rather quickly. So I tend to believe that, spirit of this organization and the listeners today, it's not a feel sorry for us. It's like, hey, we're all in this together, and we are. I'm not sure everybody else is, but we are, and we're going to find, my answer is, we're going to find ways to get through this. I don't know what that is exactly, but I don't want to go through another period where we had to furlough people. That to me was the hardest thing I ever had to do, is letting people go. And then we were fortunate to bring them back. And I hope we don't have to go through that again. Bad deal.
Yeah, I'll say one last thing. I mean, this is not the highest and best use of our time at this on June, 3rd, 2020. What we are all doing as leaders of our organization is, we do still have communities that are counting on us to produce great fireworks displays for the communities. It's a lot, the numbers are a lot smaller, but our best work has to be done out in the field, and the shows that we create, and the inspiring fireworks entertainment for people. So we'd rather be working on creating great shows versus working on legislation to help get the business to the next. The last thing that this business, this industry, we're not beggars. We're fighters. We will fight to get to next year. And like Jim said, and Steve hit on it, we're going to have to find innovative ways to do it. But we need some support.
That's great. I think we'll leave it with that. And remember, the way today you can help us is by contacting your politicians, by sharing the Go Forth for Fireworks hashtag.
And there was one other one that came in on that note. Does the APA have a letter that the shooters can send out to their reps? Does the APA have a form letter for that the shooters can use? And
we don't.
Independent. Yeah.
We don't at the current time, but we can certainly, draft that and have it available to folks. So,
Great idea.
That's a good question. Thanks, whoever wrote that.
Yeah, and make sure you get out and support. Go buy some fireworks for the 4th of July.
Yeah. Support our consumer guys and women-owned businesses. This segment of our industry works equally as hard throughout the year. they were a little afraid as well in the early weeks of this. They didn't think that they were going to get any of their stores open. And many of those companies have had to really come up with strategic plans for social distancing, curbside pickup, and a lot of other innovative things, but they're doing it. And they need just as much help as we do, and we want them to succeed in every way possible.
Yeah, create the memories in your backyard.
And do it safely.
Do it safely.
Yes, safely.
Safety first.
Always celebrate safely.
Yeah.
And for safety tips, you can go to our foundation page, which is www.celebratesafely.org. We have some great Professor Spark safety videos, awesome educational information, and safety tips. So if you are going to celebrate home on 4th of July in your backyard, please visit celebratesafely.org.
And to that point, we're actually going to have an upcoming webinar around fireworks safety for the 4th. So please keep an eye out for announcements around that as well. I think that concludes the conversation today. I'd like to thank you all for taking part in it. This is a really important topic and one we're glad you all took place in this conversation with us. So thank you all for being here. And
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Everyone else out there, stay tuned, stay safe, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.